Hi guys, Suryadev Singh here, back again from Cryolite Security. Today in this video we'll be discussing about what are cookies, what are its type, what is cookie hijacking attack and how to implement that. I will give you a basic proof of concept in this video, and at last we will discuss about some security mitigations that we can take to prevent from this kind of attack. So yeah, let's get started. You might have definitely come across this kind of pop-up when you visit a website or you log in into a website. They ask for accept our cookies. So what these cookies are? So HTTP cookies, also called web cookies, internet cookies or browser cookie, or simply cookies, are small blocks of a data created by a web server while you are browsing a website or else you are logging into a website. So these are blocks of data created by the server which are sent to our browser. So whenever our browser gets this data and our browser makes a request to the server, these cookies automatically get attached to that request so that the server could uniquely identify your computer. A normal cookies look like this. It has the domain name, it has the path, the web root directory path, it has the actual content of the cookie, it has the expiry date which defines after how much time the cookies will get expire. It has the server field which defines from which server the cookies are being sent. So the next question that comes to our mind is what cookies are used for. So cookies are used for session management, tracking and personalization. So in order to understand the session management, let me explain you with an example. Let's say you are logging into a website. For example, you are logging into facebook.com, right? You send the post request with username and password to the Facebook server. The server then validates your request. If username and password are correct, then the server will create a session in the database and generate the session ID. It replicates it and keep one copy of the session ID along with itself and sends another to our browser along with the cookies. So whenever our browser gets authenticated with the Facebook server and then our browser request for another resource from the Facebook server, then these cookies are automatically get attached to the request that we are making to Facebook server. So the server could identify you based on the session ID that are being transmitted with the request. So if the session ID matches the session that is created in the database, then the server will give you the resources without further validation of the request. This reduces the load on the server as well as also increase the user experience to browse the website. So this is the use of the cookies in the session management. Cookies can also be used for tracking. For example, you are browsing a website like Amazon.com. You purchased a laptop, right? Whenever you try to look for the other product, you will get product similar to the laptop. Why? Because the Amazon server has sent the cookies to your browser and it knows that you are more interested in laptops, so it will show you the laptops. So this is all done based on the cookies. Cookies can also be used for personalization. For example, you are logging into Instagram, right? Then you prefer to use dark theme, then the Instagram server will send a cookie, right? And whenever you log into Instagram, then the Instagram server will send you the Instagram user interface in the dark mode, and this in the server knows this because of the cookies. So this is the use of cookies in the web technology. Now let's look at what are types of cookies. So we have two types of cookies. The first is the session cookies. These are used only while navigating a website. They are stored in the random access memory and never returned to the hard drive. When the session ends, the session cookies are automatically deleted. The session cookies can be seen in the web, in the bank portal. When you visit a bank portal, the bank website or bank server will create the session in the database and sends the session ID for a specific amount of time to your browser. And after the time has expired, the session ID gets also expired. So you are not able to access the bank portal after the cookies has been expired. We also have persistent cookies. These cookies remain on a computer indefinitely although many include an expiration date and are automatically removed when that date is reached. Persistent cookies are used for two primary purposes. The first is in authentication and second is in tracking. These cookies are generally stored in the hard drive for a specific amount of time based on the expiration date set in the cookies. These cookies are used for authentication. For example, when you log in into a website, there is an option for remember me. So whenever you log in into a website, you don't have to put username and password. You just get automatically logged in. Why? Because when you click on the remember me, the server will send the cookies to your browser, and whenever you send a request to the server, the cookies are automatically sent to the server. The server then identify you and provide you with the useful resources. It is also used for tracking. Now, in order to understand the tracking, you first have to understand what are first party cookies and third party cookies. So, first party cookies versus third party cookies. So first party cookies are directly created by the website you are using. These are generally safer as long as you are browsing a reputable website or one that have not been compromised. So these are the cookies that are actually sent by the website that you are currently visiting. We also have the third party cookies. These are more troubling. They are generated by the website that are different from web pages users are currently surfing, usually because they are linked to the advertisement on that page. You might have come across a website that show you different advertisement, right? Now, how can these cookies be useful for tracking and analyze your browsing? So, for example, when you are visiting a website ABC and it has certain amount of advertisement. When you visit a website, this advertisement company will send a cookie to your browser, even if you haven't clicked on the advertisement. Now, after some time, let's say you are visiting another website that is XYZ, and it also has the same advertisement that are hosted on the site ABC. Now, if the advertisement company are same, then they know what website you are visiting based on the website on which this advertisement are hosted. So this is use of third party cookies and first party cookies. Now let's understand what is cookie hijacking or session hijacking attack. Session hijacking, sometimes also known as cookie hijacking, is an exploitation of a valid computer session, sometimes also called session key, to gain an unauthorized access to the information or services in a computer system. Now, in the session hijacking attack or cookie hijacking attack, if a malicious user is able to compromise your cookies, then he or she will be able to authenticate with the web server without even entering password or username. So this can be very dangerous. Now, how can this cookie hijacking or session hijacking attack can be implemented? So, cookie hijacking or session hijacking attack can be implemented by man-in-the-middle attack, network sniffing, which is very much similar to man-in-the-middle attack. If person is able to perform man-in-the-middle attack, he is able to sniff the network. It can be exploited by using the cross-site scripting web vulnerability. It can also be exploited by sending malware to your computer, or it can also be exploited by the malicious browser extension like Fireship and Droidship. And there are many more ways to access your cookies. It could be the physical approach also. So let me give you a basic proof of concept how the cookie hijacking attack actually works. Now I have a website over here. We have to register a username and password and we have to log in. So let me first register over this website. Let's say the username is David123 and password is David@123. I just register over this website. User created successfully. Now let me log in into this website. So username was David123 and password was David@123. So I just logged in. Right now I am logged in into this website. Now if I go to inspect element and look for the application and cookies, so you see I have a cookie over here which is authentication cookies. So this is the content of the cookie and it is the name of the cookie. So cookies are basically stored in the name value pair. It has the name and it has the value, just like the dictionaries in the Python. So If someone is able to compromise this cookie, then he or she will be able to log in into this console without even entering username and password. So let me give you an example. So I just copy this cookie value, and now let's move on to my Kali machine. Let me open my Firefox web browser. And let me open this website over here. Let me copy this cookie again. And you can see I am able to open this website on my Kali machine, and it is asking for username and password. Now I can log in into the David's accounts without even entering username and password if I have the cookie. So I click on inspect element, go to the storage section, and at cookies there is no cookies right over here. So I can click on the add button over here, and on the name I can set auth, which is the name of the cookie over here. At values I can set the content of the cookie. Now if I refresh this website, I will log in into the David's account without even entering username and password. So let's refresh from here. And you can see I just logged in into a website without even entering username and password. So this is how a cookie hijacking attack actually works. If someone is able to compromise their cookie, then he or she will be able to log in into a website without even entering username and password. Now, how this cookie can be compromised, as we have discussed earlier, it can be easily compromised with the network sniffing and man-in-the-middle attack. And if website is not HTTPS, then it becomes more easier to access the cookie in the plain text. So let's talk about the security mitigations that we can take to prevent from this kind of attack. So mitigation to prevent cookie hijacking attack. Use the website that transport cookies in an encrypted form, HTTP only. So in the content of the cookie, there is a field called HTTP only. If this is set to true, then use this cookie. So it will basically transport these cookies in the HTTPS format. So if someone is able to sniff on the network, he or she will not able to understand the data that are being sent between the browser and the server. Use the website that has the strong and the random cookie generation policy. How cookies are generated is also an important point, or else an attacker or a hacker might able to perform a statistical analysis and able to generate the cookies by himself. Never use a malicious or obsolete browser extension like Fireship or Droidship. This kind of browser extension can be very dangerous. It can anonymously send your cookies to some other server. Use multi-factor authentication so that if a malicious user is able to compromise your session ID or cookies, then he or she will have to bypass some other authentications like OTP and other kind of stuff. The server should change the value of the cookie with each and every request, or else closely timed request from the same client can lead to token check error on the server. So this can also be harmful for a server if the same client is sending the request in a very closed time interval. Then it can generate the token check error on the server. So these are some security mitigation that we need to focus on to prevent ourselves from this kind of attack. So that is it for this video. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. Do subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching the video.